It is day 3 of the actual build process. We're going to try and finish up the base of the frame here. We've got this far this morning with putting this upright on, and then this one's going on. It'll be squished down. These are getting bolted into the metal. This is getting bolted to the uprights of the roof rack that we're keeping. The cross pieces will be going shortly. They're just there for stabilization right now till we need to get it out of the way. So everything's going to be bolted all the way to the van. It's still hotter than heck. It's 90 degrees today. Not a cloud in the sky, which is kind of unusual up here because we tend to get a lot of clouds. And the good news is the wind has settled down, so we should be able to record some more and explain a little more what's going on and what we're doing. This is going to be unique to our build. Every custom DIY Hightop I've seen, the build process, whether they're doing it on a video or on an article, they're different. People do their own thing that's going to suit their needs. So this is what we think is going to suit our needs best. And you can see we're going with a cab over design up front. We'll have more details about that soon. But we're going with a cab over design in the front. So this is going to end up looking a lot like a traditional Class B van motorhome when we're done. And in the back, we're going a little bit wider too. This stud laying across there is not attached to anything. We're using that for measurements, which is proven to be a little bit of a challenge trying to get everything nice and lined up because everything's so round on the van. And even my roof racks aren't positioned perfectly side to side. So we were using that to kind of measure things up. I think we're within an 1/8 inch on these two rails. The only thing we could have done that would have been easier as far as that goes would have been to build the whole base of the frame on the ground and then lift it onto the roof. But that would have been a little bit difficult because of the weight of it. And we don't want anybody getting hurt trying to get this thing up here, so we're building it in place. So, but you can see anyways, it's going to extend back. We left this structural support right here, and we left one in the front right here. So for strength and everything. But in the back here, we were going to originally end the high top right about here around the back of the van, and we decided to, hey, why not go back a little more? Because of the curve and everything, there's actually the bumper actually protrudes about a foot past where the roof ends here. So we can go back a whole nother foot and have really ample storage space for the aft storage, crazy amount of storage. And the vehicle does not protrude past the bumper still. The high top will not protrude past the bumper. As you see, a lot of the older, I think they were before they even called them Class Bs, but the older high top camper vans with like the bubble tops or some of the early Class Bs, they really did hang over pretty much every direction to maximize that space. The current trend, aside from using like ProMasters and Transits and Sprinters, the current trend is to make everything sleek. And while that may gain you a few mpg in fuel efficiency, it also means you lose a ridiculous amount of storage. You're still taking a hit in efficiency because you're going up and you're getting all that additional wind drag, even if it's aerodynamic. But at the same time, you're not getting a lot of storage because they're curving everything in to make it slick. So we're just going the full width. We'll have more details about this, exactly what we're doing as we get it framed in a little more so it makes sense, because right now it's probably a little bit confusing. But we'll have more coming on that. And we're just prioritizing, I think I said before, but we're prioritizing functionality, and we're also prioritizing structure, that this thing is strong and firmly attached to the van so that it's not going anywhere. And we're prioritizing waterproofing so we don't have any leaks. So we'll be back in a little bit. I think it's time for a little break and some rehydration. Then we'll start bolting this on. As far as the build process, I'm fairly certain that stripping off the panels, the roof vents, wiring, all the other stuff, we still got a little wiring to pull in here. Stripping all that stuff and cutting off the roof was a slow part, especially since it's the first time I cut a roof off a van. And I think this base frame here is also going to be a little slow because, again, it's the first time I'm doing something like this, and we want to take our time on this and make sure we get the base nice and secure and as aligned as possible so that everything else lines up as well as possible. So I think it'll start going faster pretty soon, hopefully after today, as we start putting in wall structure and everything. And there's a lot of things we're still figuring out. We're still kicking around the outside skin, what we're going to do for the outside wall covering, so to speak, and what we're doing for windows. We know we're putting windows in, but we're still looking at our options for that. So there's still decisions to be made. And of course, once we get the high top done, then we got to redo a build inside. These benches that are in here still are only still in here because they're handy for, you know, standing on when you're trying to work on stuff. So it avoids having to use a ladder. So those will be coming out when the high top's done. But yeah, we're gonna go find something to drink and maybe a bite to eat. Then we'll be back at it under a 90-degree sweltering sun, because we're in Wyoming. It usually goes from like 90 and sweltering to snowing. So we really got to get this thing closed in before weather hits. So I hope you're enjoying this series. We'll be back in just a moment like that. All right, we're back from a cold beverage break and breakfast, I guess you call it. So we ate. It's still scorching hot out. We're going to try and get some more work done. I've got this horizontal piece lined up. They get these 2 2x6s. So this one's getting bolted to the metal in the van. This one's getting bolted to the roof rack uprights that we are keeping, and then they're getting bolted together. So it should all be quite secure when it's done. In honesty, I've watched every video and read every article with photos and stuff I can find about DIY custom high tops on vans, and as far as everything I've been able to find, we're doing this like more secure than anything else I've seen. So I'm not an engineer, so I tend to go for overkill, and I do not want this thing coming off or coming loose. So we're gonna get some new drill bits, because I was burning out the old ones because they were kind of old anyway, and we're gonna sandwich these together. You can see there's 2 pieces of metal here, and this was actually the roof itself. So we're going to sandwich them together and bolt the 2x6 in, and everything should be nice and secure when we're done. So I'll go ahead and get started here. All right, now we'll go for a bigger one. Have the best angle on this one as far as my arm, so I was having a little bit of a hard time keeping good pressure up there. Let me see, we need some bolts now. There we go, beautiful. So coming right out the underneath, and we'll get some washers on that and bolt it all up. Get these bolted up and draw it all in nice and tight, and it'll tighten everything up there. So you can see us pulling the metal together like I was mentioning. It's challenging because nothing in this van is like square, or, you know, everything's curved. So the side walls are curved top to bottom, of course, but they're also curved front to back. The roof is curved side to side, but it's also curved front to back. So nothing is really flat, and so we're trying to work around that the best we can. And we'll end up doing some shimming and sealing and other stuff to fill in some gaps where the wood just isn't contacting perfectly. So that's obviously is one advantage if you have a fiberglass top that's pre-molded for your particular model of van, is that it's made to fit right over all that craziness. But we don't have that, so we're having to improvise, and we'll get it all sealed up when we're done. But it is a challenge, and hopefully we're on the right track here. Good.
Perfect.
Here we go. So in case you're wondering that I'm telling the truth, that this thing is solid, we've only got half the body bolts in, and I can rock the van before this thing moves even a millimeter. It's rock solid, and when we put it, we double up the bolts still. There's just no chance this thing's moving. So, and that's the way we want it. All right, so we're going to be putting some, using some structural screws on the top here and some key places to make sure that everything's nice and strong. Some of you may not be familiar with structural screws. I only know about them from our inspection business, that one of these suckers is equivalent to a 3/8 inch lag bolt. So, at least in some jurisdictions, you could use these to attach your deck to your house, where previously you had to use lag bolts to meet code. The real preference is through bolts, but these are allowed. These are big, but the problem with regular construction screws is the shear strength. They can shear off when there's lateral load put on them. I have an interesting little chart in here talking about the allowable shear loads per fastener in pounds foot of different types of wood. But if you look at the 16D nail, 3/8 inch lag, and then the structural screws, they're quite a bit more pressure they can take before they fail, even though they're thinner. So we're going to use, we got 12 in this box, so we're going to put half a dozen on either side, just as an abundance of caution, to make sure that things are as strong as we can possibly make them. And I don't know if we need to. I'm going to pilot the holes on the outer board. So if we come over here, I'll show you what we're doing. Is we have these 2x6s that are forming the base, and we got some construction screws in here, and they're also glued. We got construction screws here. We're going to put three, we have two different boards. We're going to put 3 structural screws in each one to join these two together. And then this one is bolted to the roof of the van. We're still putting a couple more bolts in, but this is bolted to the van. And then this one is bolted to the roof rack things. So there's already basically no chance any of this can move, but we're just going to throw some structural screws in out of an abundance of caution to make sure. They're not cheap. They're over $1 a piece, but making sure the top stays on is worth it to us. So, and we may use them in a few other places. We'll point it out if we do along the way, because this thing's starting to take shape a little bit since the last time we had the camera on, and it's solid. This is the back. Well, plywood going, some sort going to the end. We got to close in underneath here still, but it's coming together. It's coming together, and we're starting to take shape, so we're getting excited about the progress. And for now, I'm just going to drill some pilot holes and throw in some giant structural screws. These are Torx bit, and they include a bit, which is nice, because I don't know if I had one that big. They're pretty hefty screws. You can get them with a hex style head or with a flat heads, and we went with the flat heads just because of what we're doing here. We think this will work better. That's a wrap for today. Day 3, third full day of the van build. We made a lot of progress. We have the entire base or frame base, whatever you want to call it, of the Hightop done now. We're just going to pull the headliner down tomorrow, put a couple more bolts in to secure things. Other than that, though, the whole base is done. So I think the rest of it's going to go faster from now on. We're battling some pretty crazy heat today, which slowed us down quite a bit. Now the wind's picked up again and again. It's getting a little cooler with some clouds. But, it's coming together. It's starting to look better. We're excited, and we're really happy to see how this thing turns out. Looking forward to getting it framed a little more. Tomorrow morning, we'll be taking the van over with no roof to get some lumber. We got to get some a few more 2x4s and things, and I only had to make one trip to the hardware store today for some bolts. I didn't have that were I needed some that were longer than what we had, so we'll have a playlist in the video description below if you want to see all the videos from this build project. Otherwise, we appreciate you following along, and you know, we're not doing this as a DIY tutorial, and this is how to do a high top. There's lots of ways to do a high top. This is just the way we're doing a high top, and hopefully it works out for us. I think it will. We certainly are not opposed to the whole getting a commercial fiberglass high top thing on. It's just that for us, we could do it cheaper by ourselves and have exactly what we want that's going to best meet our needs. So we opted to save some money and do our own thing. And of course, we got to live with it if we mess something up. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we're going to get it right. So we're looking forward to see how it turns out, and hope you keep following along to see the rest of this build project.